I would challenge, my friend, find a single Democrat senator on this committee.
You are now changing the
No, that is what I said.
I did not interrupt you, sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish.
Hey, patriots. Welcome back to the channel where we speak the truth, defend the Constitution, and call out hypocrisy in Washington, D.C. If you believe in law and order, justice, and the American way, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a dose of reality. So, let's talk about what just happened in the Senate Judiciary Committee, a moment that perfectly captures everything that's wrong with politics in Washington today. We had an explosive back and forth between Senator Cory Booker, the so-called Spartacus, and a Republican colleague, Ted Cruz, over the safety of our Supreme Court justices and the utter failure of the Biden administration to enforce the law. Let's break it down step by step, and I'll give you my honest, unapologetic opinion as a proud American patriot.
Mr. Chairman, would you indulge me for a moment?
We indulge you every moment.
I appreciate that act of generosity. It's just something you said that I think is actually dangerous and should be addressed, and you're welcome. But when Judge Anderol was killed in New Jersey, the Republican colleagues in the Senate, their outpouring of support, their outpouring of concern, they're willing to work together on a bipartisan bill was extraordinary. It shows the truth of this institution that despite some of the fiery rhetoric that you were sowing, we're really a bipartisan, working bipartisanship. Cornyn and Coons, after the incidents you're talking about, got together and actually passed a bill to better protect our Supreme Court justices, many of whom are friends of ours. You know, Gorsuch and I disagree on a lot of stuff. I knew his wife before he did. We studied together at Oxford. This implication that there was silence when there were threats on their people's houses is absolutely absurd. I remember the rhetoric and the comments, the concern from Coons. I actually distinctly remember you, Chairman, on more than once condemning those attacks on Republican-appointed jurists. To say things like that feeds just the partisanship in this institution and feeds the fiery rhetoric. And it's just plain not true. It's just plain not true. And I think you know that, but we can pull from the record from my colleagues in real time, literally days afterwards, condemning it. There's a lot of substantive things to say here, but to think that the lack of humanity when people's homes are being threatened was not in existence, I think that's unfair and really concerns me that you would say that in the way that you did.
Well, I thank my colleague from New Jersey. I will note, as John Adams observed, that facts are stubborn things. And it is existing federal law, 18 USC Section 1507, that makes it a crime to protest at a judge's home. And the law provides whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent or of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. That is federal criminal law. Night after night after night, angry mobs were outside the Supreme Court justices' homes, and in the entire course of it, the Biden Justice Department prosecuted nobody. We had the Attorney General sitting at that table, and multiple Republican senators asked him, why are you not enforcing the law? What they are doing is a crime. And my friend from New Jersey said, it is a lie to say we, the Democrats, condone this. I would challenge, my friend, find a single Democrat senator on this committee holding the Attorney General to account for not enforcing this law. I was here at those hearings, and I do not recall a single Democrat senator saying to the Attorney General, you should arrest these people who are violating the law, you should protect the judges. I agree that there was general language against violence, but not a single Democrat senator that I ever saw in this committee was willing to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland to account for flagrantly disregarding the federal criminal law because the Biden administration agreed with the protesters and I think wanted those justices harassed at their home.
I really appreciate that you've now shifted the accusation you made earlier. Your accusation was that we were silent in the face of protests at Supreme Court justices' homes. Again, we joined together in a bipartisan way, not only to condemn that, but to pass legislation to extend round-the-clock security protection, literally days. It was introduced May 5th, passed the Senate in a bipartisan fashion on May 9th. So if you're saying that we didn't criticize
Did the
Merrick
Biden
Garland,
DOJ arrest a single person under this law?
You are now changing the
No, that is what I said.
accusation
That is what I said.
Again, I'll pull the record.
Did the Biden DOJ arrest even one?
Again,
The answer is no.
my point to you is the accusation that the Democrats on this committee do not care about the safety
All right, so let me
of
ask you
federal
this.
judges.
Should
I
the
did not
Biden
interrupt you,
DOJ
sir. I would appreciate if you let me finish. I am sick and tired of hearing the kind of heated partisan rhetoric, which is one of the reasons why we have such divisions in this country. The attacks we see from the President of the United States of America trolling and dragging judges through is what we should be talking about that puts people in danger. I'm simply taking issue with the claim that you made at the top that people on the Democratic side of the aisle do not care about the safety and the security of judges and said nothing. You said we were silent after people's houses were protested. That is a patent lie, sir. We were not silent. We took action. We joined in a bipartisan way to protect those judges, as was done in a bipartisan way to protect a New Jersey judge after their horrific attack at their home. So I see you now trying to shift the debate to whether we talk to an attorney general. I'm simply taking issue with this accusation that somehow we Democrats are so bad because we don't call out threats to our judicial colleagues. And that is wrong. You could change the argument now that you want, but what you said was patently not true and was, in fact, a patent lie.
So I do enjoy the fact that my colleague from New Jersey raises his voice and says it's a patent lie and says he's doing so in defense of lowering the rhetoric. There is some irony to doing those two together. I'll point out that in the entire course of those remarks, Senator Booker did not dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department arrested 0 people, prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law, and every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it. And this was an ongoing pattern for months. And I would note also that the senator from New Jersey clutched his pearls about language threatening judges, and yet I do not recall a single Democrat senator of this committee saying a word when Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened the safety of the Supreme Court justices by name, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and he said, "You have unleashed the whirlwind and you will pay the price." And not a single Democrat senator had a word to say about this. And so their outrage is selective. And I will give my colleague from New Jersey a chance to just answer a simple yes-no question. Should the Biden Justice Department have enforced the criminal law against protesting at a justice's home? Yes or no?
So the rank hypocrisy of Chuck Schumer apologizing the next day and you holding that standard for him and not for your president, who you actually rightfully described when you were running against him in a primary. I would love to run those tapes of how you perfectly talked about the danger of our president and his rhetoric. But now you are failing, in fact, blind to the very things you're accusing Chuck Schumer of. I don't think Donald Trump would know an apology if it hit him in the head. Never has said apologizing. So again, you are very, very, sir, very, very deep into the waters of hypocrisy in your criticisms of Chuck Schumer.
So let the record reflect that Spartacus did not answer the question and did not tell us whether the criminal law should be enforced, because he knows the answer is yes, and he knows that the Biden Department of Justice was being wildly political and partisan in refusing to enforce the law because they disagreed with the Supreme Court justices' rulings.
Here's the scene. Senator Booker gets all high and mighty because someone on the committee dared to point out that Democrats were silent when leftist mobs showed up at Supreme Court justices' homes. Instead of owning up to it, Booker calls the claim dangerous. He even says it's a patent lie. Well, let me tell you something, Senator. What's actually dangerous is the precedent you're setting by pretending that your side did everything right, when the facts say otherwise. Booker tries to distract us by pointing out that there was a bipartisan bill after Judge Saito was killed in New Jersey. He says, look, we came together, we worked together, we passed bills. Well, that's great, Senator, but let's not kid ourselves. Passing a bill after a tragedy isn't the same as standing up in the heat of the moment and demanding justice and accountability when your side is silent. What about the actual enforcement of the law? What about 18 USC Section 1507, the law that makes it a federal crime to protest at a judge's home, to try to intimidate or influence the judiciary? According to the law, you can be fined or thrown in jail for up to a year. But did the DOJ under Joe Biden actually enforce this law when leftist activists were screaming outside Kavanaugh's and Barrett's homes night after night? No, not one prosecution. Not one. That's not opinion, folks. That's a fact. Booker gets offended, starts raising his voice, ironically, while lecturing everyone about heated rhetoric. He says he's tired of the division, but then calls his colleagues' claim a patent lie. The hypocrisy here is off the charts. And then the Republican senator brings up Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, who went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh by name. You have unleashed the whirlwind, and you will pay the price, Schumer said. That's not just uncivil. That's dangerous. Did a single Democrat on that committee, including Booker, stand up and condemn those words? Nope, not a word. But if President Trump tweets mean things about a judge, suddenly it's DEFCON 1 and the world is ending. The double standard is crystal clear. Patriots, here's what really bothers me. Our justice system is supposed to be blind. The law should be enforced no matter who's in power, whether the mob is left-wing or right-wing. But what we're seeing with this administration and with Democrats in Congress is selective enforcement. When a mob suits their agenda, they look the other way. When it doesn't, they go nuclear. Booker keeps changing the subject, first saying they weren't silent, then saying, well, we passed a bill, then refusing to answer a simple yes or no question. Should the Biden DOJ have enforced the federal law against intimidating justices at their homes? He won't answer because deep down, he knows the answer is yes. But he can't say it because it would mean admitting the Biden administration failed to uphold the law. This isn't just about politics. This is about the basic safety of our judges, who should be able to do their jobs without fear of intimidation, threats, or violence, no matter which side of the aisle they're on. If we allow mobs to show up at their homes and nothing happens, no arrests, no prosecutions, then we're setting a precedent that will come back to haunt us all. And let me say this, I don't care if it's left-wing, right-wing, or anyone else. If you're breaking the law, you should be prosecuted. That's what equal justice means. That's what makes this country great. So next time you see these politicians on TV patting themselves on the back for bipartisanship, remember what really happened. Remember who actually stood up for the rule of law and who tried to change the subject, point fingers, and avoid responsibility. The safety of our Supreme Court justices and the integrity of our justice system is not a partisan issue. But when one party refuses to enforce the law because they agree with the mob, that's not democracy. That's chaos. Patriots, it's up to us to hold these people accountable. Call your senators, demand equal justice, and never let them forget that facts are stubborn things. We'll keep fighting for the truth, for the Constitution, and for the American way. God bless you. God bless our judges and justices, and God bless the United States of America. If you agree, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay free, stay strong, and stay true to the red, white, and blue.